Hi there, it's Mario here, and in this video you're going to see what it looks like to eat only 1,000 calories in a day. So I'm going to guide you through one of the days of the week where I consume only 1,000 calories. And I'm going to tell you the reasons why I do that. And specifically, it might be interesting for you because I'm currently in a lean gaining phase. So I'm not aiming to lose body fat. This is not a diet. This is not my regular day. It's just one day of the week. And I'm going to give you some reasons for why I do this, and maybe you want to try it out yourself. So what I'm doing in 1,000 calorie day is something called the protein sparing modified fast. Essentially, it is just eating a little bit of protein to prevent muscle loss, and all the other calories, just a little bit of calories, goes into veggies, which makes you feel a little bit fuller, as well as gives you some of those micronutrients. Some of you might have read the book called The Rapid Fat Loss Handbook by Lyle. It's kind of a book on how to do a crash diet, but in a smart way. So he used the protocol of the protein sparing modified fast diet, as well as it's something that is not well studied. So that's the first thing we want to point out here. This is not well studied. I mean, we don't have a lot of research on this. So guys who are expecting this to be like the magical solution or something that everybody should be doing, it's not the case, right? This is not well studied. This is something that I'm experimenting with, as well as in theory, it sounds like a good idea, but often things that sound like a good idea in theory might not well work in the practical application of things, right? So keep that in mind, right? So this is not science we're talking about here. It's more about experience. There's a little bit of science behind it. In some clinical trials, they use this to help people lose a lot of weight. And in case of the crash diets, that at least the crash diet of the Rapid Fat Loss Handbook, it's kind of like an introduction to a diet where you have to lose a lot of weight. So in terms of fat loss, this can be a very effective protocol to lose a lot of fat fast, a lot of weight initially, and then kind of get into a diet. And if you're really interested in that, check out the Rapid Fat Loss Handbook. I'm going to leave it in the description below. But aside from that, why am I doing this for bulking, right? Why am I doing this for lean gaining? Well, for those 6 days of the week where I'm eating about 3,100 calories right now, those days are my muscle gaining days, right? So I'm going to add more calories on those days. And that one day, that is my rest day, which is today, I'm not going to do training, right? I'm not going to do any sort of let's say training that's going to stimulate muscle growth. So I'm going to not consume a lot of calories, which is in my case 1,000 calories. And it's going to be something that theoretically should help me partition the calories a little bit more. So if I'm eating more calories, if I'm in a surplus, I'm wanting to partition more of those calories to go toward building muscle, right? And toward performance, compared to getting a lot of calories on a rest day, which is, I don't really need them, right? Today, I am doing work, I'm gonna be doing work, and it's cool to have some calories, but you don't need a lot to do in a rest day. It's just mainly gonna be protein, right? And a little bit of veggies, as I said. So it is a little bit of an attempt to partition the calories in the more favorable direction, which is gaining less fat and gaining more muscle. So this is not the ultimate solution, of course. In the end, I would have probably gotten very, very similar results if I was just doing the same surplus every single day or some kind of weekly average. That's what it comes down to. And in the surplus itself, it's a lot of trial and error. It's kind of hard to know the exact amount of calories that someone needs to add to lean gain, because as soon as you introduce more calories, your metabolism is changing. It is getting a little bit of a boost, as well as you're generally becoming more active and moving around a little bit more, and your non-exercise activity, like you're fidgeting and things like that. So you might find yourself that you can basically gain on a very large amount of calories, but then when you go on a diet to cut, you actually have to go very low in calories to do that as well, because you have an adaptive metabolism. So it's responding really well to, let's say, if you add more calories, but it's basically really effective on low calories, so you find yourself that you have to go even lower and lower if you want to keep losing weight. So speaking about the 1,000 calorie day, what am I going to eat? So the first meal, and this is going to be repeated twice, is going to be just lettuce, red peppers, and this is going to be 400 grams of this zero fat Greek yogurt. So this is my protein source. I'm going to get about 40 grams of protein out of this, and these two things will be just some fiber to keep me going. One clever trick here is to use a lot of water to drink throughout the day to feel less hungry, as well as if you want to do some artificially sweetened 0-calorie drinks, you can do that if you want to. I'd stick with water. I think that's something that really works well for me. And with the protein source, this is a great source. I don't know if you have this specific brand where you're at, but there should be some kind of low fat or potentially even zero fat protein source. And that's going to be the protein source for the whole day, right? So all the protein sources that you want to do in this day should be zero fat, because you can't afford to eat fat. It's very calorie dense, and it's going to take away a lot from your total calories that day, and you're not going to be able to add a lot of volume of food, which is going to kind of impair your satiety, right? So you want to add more volume, as much food as possible. So as more veggies as you can add, the better. And then that with protein is going to keep you full for the day, so you can kind of plow through that. How long to do this? Well, I'm doing it for 1 day of the week. If I had to do it for 2 days, that would be fine. The third day, I would probably not do that. I would probably add more food, right? So I wouldn't want to do this more than 2 days in a row. So if you're looking at your diet right now, if you want to incorporate just 1 day of this a week, that's perfectly fine. There's no risk of muscle loss. There's no risk in general. I mean, there's a lot of myths in fasting. Actually, there's a lot of myths in both directions. Like, I mean, there's one side of things, people say, well, you're going to start like levitating and turn into like this higher being if you do intermittent fasting. And then the other side of the spectrum is like, oh, intermittent fasting sucks. You're going to lose muscle. You're going to do these things. It's actually somewhere in between, right? So the truth is somewhere in between. It has some benefits. It can be a great lifestyle choice for general adherence and for just your personal enjoyment. You might find it very, very enjoyable, and it also doesn't work for everybody. That's important to understand. So the truth is somewhere in the middle. It's not the extreme. And always when you look at nutrition, try to pay attention to the middle ground. Try to pay attention to the whole evidence that you have. And what I'm telling you right now, the rapid fat loss, like the thing that most people are looking for, if you're looking at the protein sparing modified fast days as a way of doing that sustainably, it's probably not going to work, right? This is just something to try out and to incorporate and experiment with it. I mean, you can do it in a very intelligent way, such as the Lyle McDonald's book, but in a case of like that I have a lot of evidence to say this works 100%, no, of course not. And I'm not even sure, I mean, this is just mainly theoretical and an attempt to partition the calories better. So talking about specific food choices, as I said, for protein, low fat, like very, very low fat. Some of the food that I go for, this like zero fat Greek yogurt, prawns, some seafood that has zero fat, cod, it's fish, zero fat almost, lean chicken breast, like as lean as you can get, no cooking oil used or anything like that, lean turkey breast. If you can find a very lean rabbit meat, things like that, you know, like generally you want to go for very, very lean cuts of meat, and then for the rest of it, it just goes into veggies. The more variety you have, the better. I mean, I can't live a day without eating a red pepper, so that's kind of my go-to source. And then I have a lot of lettuce. I'm going to actually show you guys later on what I'm going to have. It's probably going to be like some frozen veggies as well. And I'm going to repeat this 2 times, and for the third meal, I'm going to cook something. So I'm going to try to cook something that has almost low fat, and then I'm going to show you guys how that looks like. So the whole idea, as I said, is about calorie partitioning. There's not some kind of magical formula for quote-unquote bulking without gaining body fat. It will gain body fat if you're doing it properly, especially if you have experience. I mean, it's literally almost impossible unless you have some special genetics to gain a lot of muscle mass without gaining at least some body fat. And that's okay. Gaining some body fat is okay. It's not like you want to stay perma-lean, you know, guys want to stay perma-cut all year round. It's okay if you gain some body fat. It's actually going to help you lift heavier weights. So it does help to have some better management of your calories. But again, if this doesn't fit your lifestyle, doing 1,000 calories a day, I mean, you don't have to do it, man. You don't have to do it. You can eat like 2,000 calories a day and then 3,000 on those quote-unquote bulk days. You can distribute your calories any way you want throughout the week. It's personal preference. The difference in results is minimal. And I see a lot of people like arguing around this. The results, where they're going to come from, is from the majority of stuff that you're doing, like your daily calorie intake, your macros, the quality of your diet, how well your training is set up, and how well you sleep and recover outside of the gym. So those are the big factors. This is what I'm doing here. It's a cool experiment to try out. So I'm going to show you guys the foods. This is for now the meal 1. I'm going to show you meal 2, and we can chat a little bit more on this later, and I will see you soon. So it's time for meal 2. Very simple as the meal 1 was. Some salad, and a protein source. This is going to be meal 2. Generally, I want to have about 3 meals. When I'm doing the protein sparing modified fast day, I'm going to have equal amounts of protein in each meal. So my total for the day is about 150 to 160 grams. So that made me about 50 grams per meal. That's kind of the goal, to have 3 meals in an eating window of about 9 hours. It kind of helps me deal with hunger a little bit more, so I incorporate that intermittent fasting on this day. And in general, I mean, protein sparing modified fast, as I said, it's not a magic pill, it's not a magical solution. You can just manage your calories a little bit easier throughout the week. And if it does help you, kind of, if you can plow through that day of a really big deficit such as this day, it might actually help you, I mean, to eat more food on the other days of the week when you have your training, when you have other things to do. And it is helpful in that way to kind of partition those calories in a way that it can be more beneficial for you. So simply what we're doing here is we're playing with calories. It's not that we're doing some kind of magic. And this day, it's important to feel full and also not to feel hungry. I mean, you will feel some hunger, especially if you're on a diet. But still, if you add your protein, if you get your veggies, things like caffeine help. I mean, some people feel that they feel better if they drink green tea a lot or if they drink coffee. Some, as I said, artificially sweetened beverages. I mean, moderation is key with anything. So you want to make sure that you have enough of food volume, which veggies are really good for that, as well as find certain protein sources that you can really stick to, and then that they are also moderately, in terms of just protein, not a lot of fat with them and a lot of carbohydrate with them, so it kind of keeps your nutrition separated. So this day is a good practice as well for you to get more protein, as well as a good practice of mental toughness, because today, I mean, there's not a lot of food, and food is definitely not one of those things that you have in abundance. So it's kind of a good way to practice mental toughness and to practice being in a deep calorie deficit. You know, it's just one day of the week, so it's not a big deal. And it is one of those things that it's kind of like a challenge. You know, I always look at it, okay, it's another way I can challenge myself. So I'll get back to you on a meal 3. That's going to be a little bit more complicated than this one, but again, it's going to be very, very simple, as you will see. So that is the meal 2, and I will see you in the next meal. It's time for our meal 3, and now we're gonna have some seafood. So this is very, very low fat protein. As we said for today, that's very, very important. And we have an apple, so we have an actual carbohydrate source in meal 3, which is gonna be awesome. I'm dying to eat some carbs today. And got some frozen veggies here, which I'm just gonna boil a little bit just to get some extra fiber. And the boiling process isn't the most ideal way you can actually prepare this, but I mean, for now, it's gonna have to work. So that's for now, you know, just to get some vegetables in. I'm just gonna leave that there. And for the prawns, I'm not gonna use any cooking oil, so this might explode right now. Yeah. Just gonna keep it very, very simple, and just gonna add some salt. So this is just eating for fuel. There's no enjoyment whatsoever in this meal, but it is still gonna be a little bit tastier if you add some of these spices, at least get a taste of spices. Generally, these prawns don't taste like anything, so you have to add something to them. What I like to add is ginger, and I have some black pepper there and some salt. That's gonna be it. I actually need to get more spices here. I mean, I'm in Mexico after all, right? And I'm in the country that has really good spices and things like that. I'm not using anything, so that's something I have to work on a little bit. So yeah, it's gonna be a very simple meal for now. I'm gonna add some more salt. I'm using this rose salt thing. It's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm just gonna add this meal, and this is gonna be the final meal of the day. Generally, I mean, cooking is not that difficult, at least not if you don't want to become a chef, if you're like me. I know a lot of guys complain about cooking. It's like, oh, it takes so much time, man. I don't want to be a girl. I don't want to do this and that. If you're coming from that kind of country, you know, in some countries, I mean, at least where I'm from, you know, it's kind of a shame for a man to cook and things like that. It's super, super weird. But the point is that you can cook very, very simple and easy meals, right? And that's kind of the idea of being on a very healthy diet in general, is that your meal is going to be very simple, right? I mean, today is kind of an exception that I'm doing here. It's a protein sparing modified fast day, which is only 1,000 calories, 1,100 or so. I'm going to give you the macros in the description below, and you're going to see exactly what the macros are for each meal. But when you talk about general cooking and eating healthy food, you do want to reduce the reward value of the food, because that little reward value that you're getting from, let's say, eating super highly palatable foods, it's almost like an addiction. It's one form of behavior addiction. So it's not a substance addiction, which is like a lot of people like to compare sugar with drugs and things like that. That's definitely not true, but it's a behavior addiction. So behavior addiction is like, oh, every time I'm sad, I go for ice cream. You know, that kind of stuff. You know, that kind of stuff you can get ingrained and become a habit very easy. So we generally want to keep the reward value of the food quite low on those default days, on those days that are basically 90% healthy, 10% junk. If you want to eat junk, 10% and 90% very healthy food, very simple ingredients. And if you look at the most healthiest diets in the world, like people who live 100 plus, you know, Okinawas and these areas in the world, it's very simple, right? It's like sweet potato, it's a little bit of soy stuff, and it's a little bit of beans, you know, a little bit of legumes, a little bit of meat, you know. It's all single ingredient foods. So they don't do like a combination which you go to a restaurant, you know, it's like you put a taco inside of a burrito, on a pizza inside of a hamburger, and then you eat all of that, you know. That's like, it's like a bomb of calories that you just get, and it's super tasty, and you can't stop eating it, right? So if you keep the ingredients simple, it generally is going to make you feel fuller, because the way the satiety works itself is it works based on an ingredient. So the more mixture of variety you have, the harder it's to become fuller. So I mean, that's why you go to a buffet and you can't stop eating, because there's so many different tastes that you want to try everything, and kind of makes the whole calorie control thing hard. Even though you're using MyFitnessPal like I am, for example, for measuring everything, it's still difficult if you're hungry. You know, hunger is one of the key predictors of success on a diet. I mean, I actually did a video on that recently. They did this huge study analysis of people who weren't hungry were the most successful. You know, I mean, kind of obvious, right? If you're not hungry, and you're gonna successfully diet. So yeah, I mean, this is gonna be very simple here. I mean, these take literally, I mean, like 20 minutes maybe to prepare. They don't require a lot of attention, so I can just do this. Normally, if I wasn't filming this video, I'd be using some kind of audiobook and be listening to that. And that's kind of what I do every time I cook. So this is the exception, because I'm doing this YouTube video now for you guys to show you. But you want to maximize your time, and you can, especially while you're cooking, because this doesn't require a lot of attention, right? So this just look at it, you know, and if it's burning, if it's going on fire or something like that, if your house is burning down, then you can pause the audiobook. But generally, I mean, it's going to take care of itself. So yeah, that's going to be the meal 3, and that concludes the whole day, which is an approximate, as I said, about 1,100 calories. Direct, like the exact macros in the description below. If you want to try out the protein sparing modified fast as a challenge to you, definitely try it out, and let me know in the comments on one of the future videos, or on this video, any comment you put it. I read all the comments, reply to every single comment. So if you want to try out just to do 1,000 calorie a day and get the protein, and just to try it out as a challenge, let me know in the comments below how you went. You know, how the day went by. How does it feel, right? Is it nice? Is it kind of too hard for you right now in your life? Could you do this? So let me know your experience, and yeah. Let me just finish cooking this, and we'll chat a little bit for the outro and share a couple final thoughts, and I will see you guys there. So we got our meal 3 here. This is still steaming a little bit. Veggies are ready, the seafood is ready, and we have our little bit of a carbohydrate source. I want to thank you for watching the video. Hope this was insightful, learning and seeing how a 1,000 calorie diet, I mean, it is brutal because there's not a lot of food, but it can still be enjoyable, you know, from time to time if you want to try it out. And I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments below. Would you like to see more videos like these from the kitchen, from consuming different types of foods, matching the calories, hitting the macros, and things like that? So let me know in the comments below if you find this enjoyable, or me just rambling on around food. So if you think it's fun, I'm going to do more of these in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.